All right, I think I'm back up. Apologies, everybody, for the technical difficulties. Not how I wanted to start the season. Not how I wanted to start the season. Not how I wanted to, kick off a paywalled stream. So, for the rest of the evening, this one's on me. This one's on the house. This one's on me. The rest of this stream will be available to the general public. Apologies for the tech difficulties. I tested this stuff before. I tested this stuff before I went live and didn't have any issues. So, I'm not really sure what happened there. So that's my fault. So my apologies. The rest of this stream is on the house. Anybody's free to ask questions. E111, I will get to your your question first. Apologies for the tech issues, but just go ahead and repost it. I know it had Ramondre, Ford, Pittman, and I think there was one other player. Give me the scoring. Give me how many of those four. Is it to pick 2 of those 4? Pick 3 of those 4. Give me some extra context, and I will answer that. I will answer that question for you. So that's my bad. Apologies on the tech difficulties. The rest of this stream moving forward is on the house, is on me. Anybody's welcome to bring questions to the table. I will not ask that you join as a member of the channel. My tech issue, there can't be any tech issues if I'm going to ask that. So, we'll break this one down. Week 1 will be on the house. And sorry for the gap in availability. The question I'm remembering E11. It was Ramondre, it was Jerome Ford, it was Michael Pittman, and it was one other player. I mean, I like all 3 of those first names. Ford at home against the Cowboys is enticing. Stevenson, Ford, Hubbard. Who does Carolina have tomorrow? The Saints at home. That's not a bad matchup. New England's on the road against Cincinnati, but I like Ramondre tomorrow. If it's non-PPR, if it's standard scoring, okay, then I like Stevenson a little less. Pittman's tough as well because in standard scoring, it's just like a little more volatile. I like Ramondre on the road against Cincinnati to get the lion's share of opportunities out of the backfield. I guess I'm not as concerned about him catching passes. It's not like, okay, fine. It's like a carry. He's still going to get a lot of in standard scoring anyway. He's still going to get a lot of opportunities. I would take him. I think I would take Ford against the Cowboys, and then Pittman or Chuba. That's a pretty good matchup against the Saints. I would go Stevenson. I would go Stevenson. I would go Ford, and then maybe to mix it up, I would go Pittman. Just at least he is a starting wide receiver 1. And if you didn't get my Coleman versus Thomas answer, I think ultimately my answer is Thomas. Coleman has the opportunity for sure. Coleman definitely has the opportunity. His competition for targets is a little less proven than Thomas's is. Thomas has Christian Kirk to contend with, Evan Ingram to contend with, who set the catch record, I believe, last year for a tight end. And then Gabe Davis, who is not great, but has shown flashes here and there. Coleman's competition is Dalton Kincaid, breakout player, but hasn't quite done it yet. He looked good last year. He did look really good last year. But he hasn't completely broken out. Not yet. Curtis Samuel, who's dealing with some turf toe, and Khalil Shakir, who I do like. I prefer Thomas because I think he's the better player, but it's fair to say that at least for this year, Coleman might have the better opportunity. But I like Brian Thomas. I like Brian Thomas. He was a top 5 receiver prospect in a loaded receiver class. I mean, all the receiver classes are loaded these days, but Brian Thomas, I think, was like the 4th or 5th receiver off the board after the big 3. So I like Brian Thomas. Yeah. Thomas over Coleman. I just think Coleman has the greater opportunity for this year, but I think Thomas is the guy I would just flat out rather have as like the better player. And yeah, I would start Ramondre. I would start Jerome Ford, and I think I would start Michael Pittman. It's a little dicey with him over Hubbard in standard scoring. But as a wide receiver 1, I don't want to discount his. I mean, he will be going up against Derek Stingley. So I guess that's a little less than ideal. Where is that game? It's at home, so you worry about it a little less. It's at home, so you worry about it a little less. I think I go Stevenson, Ford, Pittman. That's where I think I go. Yes. Oh, you only need one. Dang. You only need one of these dudes to start? Stevenson. That's where I'm going. I think I'm going Ramondre. Yeah. I'll go Ramondre. Again, apologies for anybody who was with me a little earlier and maybe you're catching back up or seeing for the first time. Had some tech difficulties, not sure what the hell happened. I tested all this equipment before I went live and everything was fine. I'm not sure what happened in that time frame, so apologies. This start sit stream will be on the house. I will make this available to everybody. Because you guys should not have, you shouldn't have to deal with me having to deal with tech issues. That's not not fair to you guys. My thoughts on Rome Odunze. I like Rome Odunze for for Dynasty, absolutely. For this year, at least going into week 1, he is behind DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. That's a glass half empty perspective. The glass half full is they spent a top 10 pick on him and they have the number 1 overall pick, one of the better quarterback prospects in recent memory, throwing him the ball. So this could just be like an all upside connection for this year. I like Rome Odunze. I definitely have a little bit of hesitation with him running behind 2 vets or alongside two vets. Well, Keenan Allen's definitely a vet. DJ Moore is, he's been around the block, but he's also very much in his prime. It could be difficult for him to siphon away consistent targets from those 2 guys, but he's got a ton of talent. The Bears drafted him top 10. They clearly, some players drafted in the first round are projects. I don't think that's necessarily the case here, especially given the circumstances. Caleb Williams was the first overall pick, and by all accounts, an upper echelon quarterback prospect, maybe even a generational one, maybe. And you pair him with a top 10 drafted wide receiver. I mean, the Bears have a vested interest in getting that connection humming as quickly as possible. So there's both sides of the coin. He's obviously good. He's a good stash and wait. I'm probably not starting him tomorrow. I don't think I'm starting Rome Odunze tomorrow, but the opportunity is certainly there. He's going to have to, he's going to have to earn it. It's not going to be easy for him. But he does present an element of upside. As far as Brock Bowers, I mean, he's one of the best tight end prospects. He's one of the best recent tight end prospects. So you have big time individual expectations for a guy like that. Is the situation suitable enough for him to have success year one? And how much confidence do you have in a rookie tight end who they all played quite well last year, or the young guys did anyway, but generally speaking, it's not uncommon to see tight ends get off to a slow start because it's a difficult position to learn and play at the NFL level. Not that there's an easy position to play, but some have a steeper learning curve than others, and tight end is one of them. So, how much confidence do you have in Bowers bucking that trend in a situation that is maybe it's fair to consider or call less than ideal? Gardner Minshew had a decent year last year, but the Raiders overall, talent level on offense isn't the best. Devontae Adams is still good, but how much left does he have in the tank on a team that is not probably ready to compete this year, especially when the Chiefs make it tough enough on everybody, but they especially on the teams in their division. I mean, they're behind the eight ball before the season even kicks off when you have to deal with a player like Patrick Mahomes in your own division. So, how good is Devontae Adams going to consistently be if he is a Raider for the entire 2024 season? Jacoby Myers is solid. I like Jacoby Myers. He's a pretty good receiver. He's definitely, he's a starting receiver in this league, which is a compliment. Zamir White, we'll see. Averaged over 4 yards a carry when he got the opportunities last year, but the efficiency didn't exactly blow you away. And then we'll see what happens with Minshew, with this offensive line that is still a work in progress. A Raiders team that, for the most part, they haven't been that good recently. They've been okay. They made the playoffs a couple years ago as like the 6 or 7 seed. Now Bowers steps into that situation. You also have Michael Mayer, who they drafted in the second round last year. So do they run a lot of 12 personnel, which I don't think hurts Bowers' receiving prospects necessarily. It's just like, how good are the opportunities that he's getting consistently? So I like the talent. I'm not crazy about the situation. Talent typically wins out. So I'm cautiously optimistic on him, but are we at the point yet? Are we really at the point where we can start having high expectations for every single rookie tight end, every single young tight end? Or are we spoiled by what happened last year with Sam Laporta and Dalton Kincaid? And he's not a rookie. He wasn't a rookie last year, but he emerged late. Trey McBride. How likely is it that Bowers follows suit there in this situation? We'll see. I think he's a fair roll of the dice. That if you drafted him like 100+ picks into a draft, or maybe 100+ ish, or 100-ish picks into your draft, fine roll of the dice. Obviously worth a game. You might as well start him if you drafted him 100 picks into the draft. As your tight end one, you might as well start him. For what it's worth, he is the best, one of the better receiving prospects ever. So he's interesting, but we gotta wait and see. JMO or Jalen Warren? What is the scoring? Jameson Williams Sunday night against Detroit, or Jalen Warren on the road against Atlanta. I'm inclined to say, I mean, JMO is the upside play and Jalen Warren is the floor play, but Jalen Warren's floor is lower than it usually is coming into week one, first game since the hamstring injury that he suffered late in the preseason. That could have been nothing. It could have been incredibly minor, but the Steelers were cautious with Jalen Warren. They didn't throw him back into the fire right away. Obviously, you want to get him opportunities to heal when there are no games being played. So he might be a little rusty. His floor is not as strong as it typically is. JMO at home, you might only get 2 catches from him, but one could be a 40-yard bomb for a touchdown. So, do you need upside? Do you think you need upside? Did you go against Saquon Barkley last night, who popped for 3 touchdowns? I went against him. That didn't feel great. But also just as for Saquon Barkley, holy hell. Was that impressive or what? Is he gonna prove? There were a lot of people who were concerned about Saquon Barkley coming into this season because of Jalen Hurts vulturing touchdowns. We maybe overlooked a little bit the importance of Jason Kelce on the tush push. And now that he's gone, I mean, they're not going to go away from it. They utilized it last night. The Eagles did. But they didn't utilize it as effectively as they have in the past. If Saquon Barkley is getting those goal line opportunities, man, he's going to be a ceiling. He's going to be a ceiling draft pick and a potential league winner. He's not getting 3 touchdowns every game, but damn. The floor is high. Anyway, so if you went against Saquon Barkley last night, you may want to be swinging for the fences a little bit more. So you may want to go with a Jameson Williams. If you think you can play it safe, then maybe Jalen Warren. But I'm a little more he feels a little bit more volatile this week. First game since he suffered the hamstring injury in the preseason. Yeah, I mean, Saquon should be a top 5 running back at the end of the season. I think not every game is going to be a ceiling game like that. You're not going to get 3 touchdowns every week, but this is the best situation of his career by far. Teams are not going to be able to stack the box against the Eagles when they are all healthy. Yeah. He was a late first-round pick, early second-round pick in drafts this year. That might pay off in a big way. That might pay off in a big way for anybody who was at the end of their draft. Yeah. Looked good. Full PPR, Javonte Williams or Zach Moss. So Javonte is on the road against Seattle. Zach Moss is at home against New England on a Bengals offense that is, down bad right now. Is that fair to say? I mean, Jamar Chase, we'll see if he even shows up. T. Higgins is doubtful. So, you would think they have to lean on guys like Zach Moss, the running backs, in general, a little bit more tomorrow. Whereas Javonte Williams is on the road against Seattle. That could be a much improved Seahawks defense. Remember, their head coach now is Mike McDonald, the former defensive coordinator for Baltimore. So expect them to maybe be a little bit better this year than they have been in past couple seasons. Javonte feels closer to being his team's RB1 than Zach Moss, but I will caution you right now as it pertains to Javonte Williams, and I have been a Javonte Williams guy. Jaleel McLaughlin is lurking. That dude averaged like 5.2, 5.3 yards per carry last year. I mean, he's going to be up and down. He's going to be hit or miss, but that guy can be a playmaker as a change of pace guy behind Javonte Williams. So, I don't know that he's necessarily the bell cow. I know Zach Moss is not the bell cow. Chase Brown is going to be a factor, going to mix in, but they went out of their way to sign Zach Moss. This coaching staff did this year. Whereas Javonte is an incumbent that we want to believe in, but we have some question marks about after last year. And how good is this offense going to be going on the road? Bo Nix's first career start. I think I lean Moss as the floor play. I think Javonte is more likely to get the most opportunities. But even with the Bengals down their top two receivers, I'll take Joe Burrow at home over Bo Nix on the road. So I'll take Zach Moss. It's tough because Chase Brown is there and will get involved. There will be entire drives for the Bengals offense tomorrow where it's just Chase Brown. But there should be drives where it's just Zach Moss as well. And I would think red zone, goal line opportunities, short yardage opportunities, goal line more important. The guy who's going to get first crack is Moss. So I'll take Zach Moss. I don't think he's going to get more opportunities. He's more likely to split more work than Javonte Williams is, but I'll take his situation over Javonte's. At home, Joe Burrow, a healthy Joe. They probably won't have Jamar Chase. They're not likely to have T. Higgins, but what they do have is a healthy Joe Burrow. So I'll take the complementary pieces even in a less than stellar situation. I'll take Zach Moss. How do I feel about Godwin this year? I feel good about Godwin. I feel very good about Godwin. They brought in so David Canales is now the head coach for the Carolina Panthers. So Tampa Bay had to bring in a new offensive coordinator, Liam Cohn, I think, from the Rams. I mean, they said when they hired him that Chris Godwin is going to play the Cooper Kupp role in this offense. Do I expect Chris Godwin to have Cooper Kupp numbers, like prime Cooper Kupp numbers? No. But he's going to be playing in the slot this year, which is his natural position that he likes to play. And it's an offensive scheme that we know likes to utilize the slot in general. I think Godwin's going to have a good year. I like Godwin at his reduced cost. Mike Evans is still fine as a pick. They both had like 5th or 6th round picks last year. So Mike Evans was a screaming value last year. This year, I think it's Godwin. This year, I think Godwin is the value. Evans' ADP deservedly, rightfully went up to like the second round, maybe top of the third. Mike Evans' ADP rightfully went up, but Godwin's didn't. And I think Godwin is going back to his natural position where he saw a lot of success before last year when they asked him to run outside a little bit more. I like Godwin this year. I like Godwin quite a bit. I like Godwin quite a bit. I think he's going to have a nice season. Nice bounce back. Good value. Yes, Reed looked good as well. Limited number of catches, but holy hell, did he make the most of them. He's a big-time playmaker. Unfortunately, he falls into like a tier below where he normally would for start-sits moving forward, as long as Malik Willis is the starting quarterback. But he's a dynamic playmaker who unless your squad is absolutely loaded, Jayden Reed is probably a guy you have to still consider getting into your lineups. But yeah, for this at least short term without Jordan Love, as great as he looked last night, he is still volatile for the next few weeks. Unfortunately, but yes, he did look good last night. He looked damn good. Would I trade CeeDee Lamb for Chase and Kyle Pitts? damn, I want to say yes to that. I want to say yes to that, but there's so much uncertainty. The Bengals should get something done with Jamar Chase. They should. They should get something done. And Pitts is a huge, huge upgrade over Cole Kmet. I do think we are fair and allowed to have a fair amount of optimism this year about Kyle Pitts. He's got the best situation, his best quarterback since his rookie season. There's reason to feel very good about Kyle Pitts, but he still has to do it. The situation with Chase is dicey and volatile. And until he gets what he wants, he could theoretically continue to sit out. I can't imagine this lingers that long. I can't imagine the Chase situation lingers that long into the season. The Bengals, on one hand, Chase, I've heard the talking points, right? We all have. Jamar Chase, you have 2 years left on your contract. Show up and play like you're supposed to. Totally fair. And on top of that, the contract tolls if Chase doesn't show up, if he doesn't play. He's still going to, if Chase, like in some wild, wacky, completely unlikely, almost 0% situation where Chase sits out the entire season, it wouldn't count toward the contract, the number of years left on the contract. So again, like there's more talking points. It behooves Jamar Chase to show up and play out his contract. But for all we know, Jamar Chase doesn't care about that. For all we know, Jamar Chase just wants to get paid now. And you can call him selfish, you can call it frustrating, whatever you want to call it, but I mean, he's the one who holds he's the one who's kind of holding the cards right now, presumably, and hoping that the Bengals will fold. And he feels like he's in a position to do that. So we don't know how long, because we can't sit here and definitively say how long that this is going to play out, that this is going to last. As good of value as it is, no, I'm not taking that trade. I'm keeping CeeDee Lamb. Chase and Pitts is a fair offer on paper for CeeDee Lamb. It's actually pretty good value, I would say. But the situation with Chase is so in flux as of right now. And because Pitts still needs to go out there and prove it, I think he's got a great shot to do that. But until we see it, I'm going to keep the proven product. I'm going to keep what should be a slam dunk top 3 receiver in CeeDee Lamb. I'm just going to keep CeeDee. And yeah, I agree. I would just keep CeeDee Lamb. His situation is resolved. I can sleep at night knowing that CeeDee Lamb's situation is resolved. This time tomorrow, Jamar Chase's situation could be resolved. For all we know, it could be this epic, right? Like right down to the wire. And then at noon Eastern, Chase signs a contract and he's out in the field running sprints. We've seen crazier shit happen, right? Like that could happen. But until it does, it's too volatile. I'll keep CeeDee. CeeDee's situation is resolved. It's over. We know that the contract has been signed. The bag has been secured. CeeDee's going to go out there, and you can expect CeeDee to do CeeDee things. Right now, as of this live stream, as of this moment in time, we can't have any confidence in Jamar Chase until we get the news that the contract has been signed. Is Yosivas worth a waiver pickup? Yeah, I mean, it depends on how deep your league is. If it's 10 team, you're probably going to have a hard time finding a way to get him on a roster. Even if it's 12 team, it might be tough, depending on the number of IR spots you have, and if you even have anybody who's IR eligible. 14 teams, yeah, probably. And honestly, again, in 12-team leagues, In 12-team leagues, it depends on who's IR eligible and what space you have, what spots you have. But if you have T. Higgins, even in 10-team, then yeah, IR T. Higgins when he gets ruled out, assuming he gets ruled out, and pick up Yosivas if he hasn't gotten picked up yet. I wish his last. I mean, no disrespect, but I wish his last name was Yoshi Voss, so that we could just call him Yoshi. But it's not. It's Yossi Vosh. I do really want to call him Yoshi, though. He's not a lord like Sir Aldrich Estime, first of his name. Long may he reign. Aldrich Estime currently has my favorite name in the NFL. He just sounds like a medieval king. Aldrich Estime. First of his name, Slayer of Dragons. Future RB1 for the Denver Broncos. Yosivas is a waiver pickup if you have a 10-team league. You in 10-team leagues, T. Higgins, when you can put him on IR, assuming that he will be ruled out at some point between now and kickoff. 12-team leagues, again, same situation. 14-team leagues, yeah, there's probably somebody that you don't have to wait on as far as ruling out and stashing an IR to pick him up. So it depends on the situation. Brian Robinson, Chase Brown, Smith and Jigba, or Roma Dunze in half PPR. Robinson has Tampa Bay on the road, so I don't love that spot. It's not awful, but it's not great. Brian Robinson, Chase Brown, who I do think will get more opportunities tomorrow, with the likely absence of the starting wide receivers. I do think Chase Brown gets additional run tomorrow at home against New England. Smith and Jigba and Adunze, I mean, in half PPR, they're tougher to trust week one. They are their team's wide receiver threes as of right now. We can't sit here and say Roma Dunze is over Keenan Allen or DJ Moore. We can't say that Jackson Smith and Jigba is over DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett. He might run ahead of Tyler Lockett tomorrow because Lockett's been nursing an injury, but it's not going to hold him out. He could run ahead of Tyler Lockett tomorrow, but I don't know that I would necessarily bank on that. Lockett declared himself ready to go a few days ago, so you figure he's going to see his regular allotment of work. So for me, it's between Brian Robinson and Chase Brown. I think Brian Robinson is the main primary 1A for Washington, and I do think that their offense, as far as running the football, is going to be a little bit more difficult to defend this year with Jaden Daniels and how big of a threat that he is as a runner. I will take Brian Robinson of those four options. I will take Brian Robinson from those four options. It's on the road. It's not great, but I think all things considered, all factors considered, I want him definitely over the two wide receiver threes whose production is possibly random at best. And Chase Brown, who I like quite a bit and should get a few more opportunities tomorrow with them down their receivers, like in all likelihood anyway. I'll take Brian Robinson as a safe floor play. Chase Brown would be a swing for the fences play if, let's say, your opponent has Saquon. If your opponent has Saquon and you're staring down a big deficit, maybe consider the ceiling play. If not, I think I would maybe just play Brian Robinson. Half PPR, Javonte, again on the road against Seattle. Raheem Mostert at home against Jacksonville, or David Montgomery, Sunday Night Football against the Rams. I like Montgomery. tomorrow for two reasons. One, We just know that he's a regular contributor for that offense. They're at home. And what I'm most curious about is how serious was that hamstring injury that Jahmyr Gibbs suffered in the preseason? Apparently, it was nothing. It was mild enough where we expect Gibbs to suit up tomorrow night and have his normal role, have his expected role. But is he a little more underutilized on purpose tomorrow night just to as a week one precaution? Do they throw him out there 40% of the time instead of 50, 60, 65% of the time? Is he out there 45% of the time and Montgomery gets 55% just as a precaution for just week one? Mostert is in a good situation at home. Very similar situation to David Montgomery. Theoretically, the RB2 behind a more explosive younger player. So that's like kind of a coin flip for me. Both good offenses, right? The Dolphins are a good offense. The Lions are a good offense. The Lions probably have a better offensive line, but the Dolphins have, pound for pound, their receiver room is better than the Lions. It's a toss-up between Raheem Mostert and David Montgomery. And if you draft it, I would say between Raheem Mostert and David Montgomery, I would start the dude that I drafted first. So if you drafted Montgomery ahead of Raheem Mostert, believe in your own process and start David Montgomery. If you drafted Raheem Mostert over David Montgomery, again, same answer, believe in your own process and start Raheem Mostert. I would take those two dudes and I would pick the guy that I drafted first for week one. If you drafted David Montgomery first of these three guys, start David Montgomery. For at least week one, that would be my equalizing answer. Who did I draft first? Because based on that, that's the guy I most believe in. More believe in. Do I think Kyler is a sleeper or a bust? I think he's an excellent option this year at quarterback. He's 100% healthy. He's a year and a half removed from the ACL injury, so you can expect him to run a little bit more. They got him a bona fide wide receiver one in Marvin Harrison. Trey McBride emerged last year, so he's got two good weapons to throw the ball to. Michael Wilson looks like a rock solid, could be a rock solid contributor for this offense. They still have James Conner, and they added Trey Benson. All in addition to the offensive tackle that they drafted in the top 6 last year. This is an offense where you can expect to be on the rise. I like Kyler quite a bit at a reduced cost this year. I do not think he will bust. I think he will be a very good player for those who take the chance on him at his ADP, or did take the chance on him at his ADP, because drafts are over at this point. I like Kyler quite a bit. I think he's going to have a strong season. Yeah, if you got Marvin Harrison in the second round, I hope you targeted Kyler Murray. I hope you built that stack. Or Trey McBride. If you drafted Trey McBride in the 5th round or 4th round, it might have been 4th round. His price was steep this year. I hope you stacked him with Kyler. I think it's going to be a good combination this year. I do. Can Bijan match Saquon's performance? That's going to be tough. I mean, nobody ever predicts a 3-touchdown performance for any player, except for there's certain networks and certain publications do like hot takes and all that stuff. So that would be someone hitting on a hot take, not someone hitting on something that we can realistically expect to actually happen. So I will say no. But you're obviously firing B. John up as a top 5 running back for this week. Uh, you were offered. Is this? Were you offered two? Was this? Was this a one 2026 first or two 2026 firsts? It's 2206 is what is typed out. Is that two 2026 first round picks for Xavier Worthy? If it's two, the question I have to ask myself is how high is at least one of those first round picks expected to be? Will that be a top 3 pick? Will it be a top 6 pick? Like, at least one of them. If one of them is going to be a top 3 pick, then I don't necessarily maybe care about the other one. Like, who are you getting these picks from? And what does their team look like for the next couple of years? Are they one of the best teams in the league and they have 2 first round picks and one of them will be super late and one of them is from another good team? Like, where would you project these first round picks to land? If one is if one has a good chance of being a top 3, top 4 pick, then the answer is yes, take the deal. Of course, assuming if, how loaded is your receiver depth? Are you competing this year? Is Xavier Worthy going to help you compete this year? Like, these are all the questions that you need to ask yourself before you just move forward with an offer. Like, yeah, how good is your team? How good are the teams that you're receiving the picks from? There's a lot of variables here. If one is guaranteed top 3 or looks good, I know that you can't guarantee things 2 years from now, but if one of those 2 firsts is looking good to finish as a top 3 pick and you don't need Worthy this year to compete, or maybe you're just, or, if you're rebuilding, you may just want to keep Worthy. But if you're loaded and don't need Worthy to win this year, and that pick is a guaranteed top 3 pick, then yeah, you maybe want to seriously consider it. But there's a lot of factors, a lot of variables that I have questions about before I definitively tell you to sign off on that. Full PPR, Gus Edwards or Evan Ingram? This is an interesting question because I don't typically suggest a tight end over a running back, but in full PPR, you might want to do that here. In full PPR, you might want to do that here. The Chargers are playing, I should know this, the Raiders. That's not a tough matchup for Gus Edwards. He is in full PPR. Edwards is probably on the he's closer to being an RB3 than an RB2 in full PPR. Whereas Ingram, I mean, all Ingram did last year was set the catch record for tight ends in a season. I think in full PPR, you go Evan Ingram. I think he's a top 5 option this week. Until we see the rest, until we see the 2024 Jacksonville Jaguars offense, I mean, the mainstays are Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram. Those are the guys as pass catchers that Trevor Lawrence has any type of connection with from last year. They're breaking in Gabe Davis and Brian Thomas. And they have to keep pace with the Dolphins, who have a top 3 offense from last year. So they have to keep pace. I mean, Evan Ingram should catch a ton of passes tomorrow. I'll say in full PPR, I'll say Ingram. That's where I would go. Should you pick up Braylon Allen if you have Breece Hall? It depends on who you're dropping. Depends on who you can drop. Like in a vacuum, yeah, of course. I'm always down to have um the handcuff to my RB1 just to to maximize my protection, um my investment. But who are you dropping to make that happen? There might be guys that just have higher ceilings. So in a vacuum, yeah, I want my RB1's handcuff. I want that protection for my investment. But who am I dropping to make that happen? Depends who's at the end of your roster. If your running back depth is is deep, or if your wide receiver, if you have like a wide receiver 7 or an RB6, and you want to drop that person for your RB1's handcuff, like that's understandable. That's fair. But how deep is the waiver wire in your league, all that stuff. In the event that you need to go back to the waiver wire for a more immediate need somewhere else, how many viable options are available to you. So it all depends on all those details. Who do I like this question? Who do I think Josh Allen's number one target will be this year? Everyone's drafting Dalton Kincaid like it's going to be him, and that's fair. Dalton Kincaid was excellent last year prior to the injury that knocked him out closer to the end of the season. He had a great stretch in that middle of the season last year. He only caught 2 touchdowns, but touchdowns are a volatile stat. But like week 7 to 10 last year, he was a strong RB or strong tight end 1. He ended the season well. He led the team in receptions in the playoff game against Kansas City. I mean, Kincaid looks poised to be the guy. That being said, the pound for pound value that I like in this offense, I do like Shakir. He did only have 39 catches last year. Kincaid had 73. So Kincaid is the likely favorite, but I do like what Shakir brings to the table from a value perspective. But Kincaid, like he kind of had a limited season last year. He did have he did miss a little bit of time. Wasn't super involved early on. Missed a couple of games due to injury. Still 73 catches as a rookie. I mean, you would think the pendulum swings in his department as far as touchdowns go a little bit more this year. He only caught 2 last year. So you would think that number comes up as well. It's probably Kincaid. It's probably Kincaid. I don't think it's Curtis Samuel. He's already dealing with turf toe, which I don't like the sound of that coming into the season. Turf toe lingers. Turf toe is one of those things that lingers. It doesn't get better. It only gets better with rest. And there's only so much time for rest over the course of an NFL season. He's not ever going to be, if he plays every game or tries to play through it, he's never going to have more than like a week off. I'm not worried about Curtis. I don't think Curtis Samuel is like, it's complete panic mode, but I worry that his ceiling is not going to be met with this turf toe injury, especially when you consider where he's been drafted this year, like 9th round or so. You need help at running back. So this is why you're mixing. What is that, Rashad White or Zamir White? You have Jacobs, you have Montgomery. I would say that's fine. I don't think you have. I mean, I don't know who your depth guys are, but that's not bad. That's fine. I would say you're okay without knowing who you. I'm more interested if you're considering moving Worthy for some first round picks with the season like here starting. I mean, I would be more interested to know who your receivers are. If your receivers are good and you're looking to just get some draft capital because you don't need Worthy this year, then I can understand it. But um, like are you a top 3 team in your league? If you're a top 3 team in your league and Worthy is your wide receiver 5, then you probably should keep him. That's going to be good depth to help get you through the season. I would say it depends on who your other wide receivers are and how competitive you are. That running back room tells me that you're trying to compete this year. Should you trade Etienne and Corum for Taylor? And then you have Gibbs as a stud, Javonte as an interesting, could be starter some weeks. Dowdle and Benson are stashes and weights. So you'd have Gibbs, Taylor, Javonte. I mean, that's possible. For Taylor, I don't necessarily hate that. You are giving up some decent depth, so I'd be interested to see like what are you going to fill that second roster spot with? Like if you move ETN and Corum, like who takes up that empty roster spot where you could, because you're getting Taylor back in return and then you could pick up a player. So like who are you getting? Who are you picking up off waivers to ultimately like even this trade out? Like who are you going to add? Because you can kind of look at it that way. Like when you do a 2-for-1, the guy that you pick up on waivers who you have your eye on can be considered the guy that you get in return for such a deal. So like what are you adding? What are you adding as that second piece off of waivers? I don't hate it. It's a little much. It could be a little much to give up. What we'll be curious to see is like how true are these, like, is this coach speak that Kyron Williams is going to be the team's punt returner this year? And how much does that take away from his opportunities on offense? Because then you want to keep Corum. So, like, that's a question that we just unfortunately are not going to get answered until we actually see the games get played. I like ETN this year. I do. But Taylor should be a top 5 running back. So I don't mind the swing for the fences to you have Taylor and Gibbs to rock with and still decent depth. It's a lot. It's not. It's a lot to give up, but you're getting a guy we have top 5 upside for in Taylor. So I don't hate that. I don't hate that. And then do you trade ETN, Marvin Harrison, and Pickens for James Cook, Puka, and Debo? You have Bijan. It's a downgrade going from James Cook to ETN, but Puka would, in theory, be a slight upgrade over Marvin Harrison. Debo, in theory, would be an upgrade over George Pickens, although I do think George Pickens is in for a pretty good season, even though the quarterback play is not that good in Pittsburgh. Again, and also to that point, Russell Wilson is not expected to play tomorrow, so it's going to be Justin Fields. Let's see what he can do, but that makes me feel a little worse about Pickens, at least for week 1. Do you trade ETN, Marvin Harrison, and Pickens for James Cook, Puka, and Debo? I think no. I think my answer to that one is no. Keep your guys. I'm more interested in ETN and Corum for Taylor. I think that one's a little bit more palatable. That's a little more palatable. I don't want to give up ETN, Marvin Harrison, and Pickens for Cook, Puka, and Debo. You can definitely argue that you'd be getting a bump up at receiver in both spots, but I think James Cook is a solid drop off from Travis Etienne, and Marvin Harrison and Pickens are, Harrison has high expectations just like Puka and Debo, and I just like George Pickens. I think he's in for a strong season on volume alone. So I say no to that one. Hey, Jason, thank you so much for the super. I very much appreciate that. That's very kind of you. Sleepers do jump the line. So I see my spot in line for other questions that need to be answered. So I will get back up to it. But if you are feeling generous enough, Jason, thank you so much. I will jump the line and get to those first. So let's see what do we have here? 14 teams, respect, full PPR, Tua, Bijan, Mostert, Cup, Waddle. Nice. You have Tank Dell in the flex. Kirk, JMO, J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, Jalen Wright. I like these. I like that Mostert, Jalen Wright handcuff for you. Just as an aside, I like that. I like that handcuff for you. I like Jalen Wright quite a bit. I think he's that backfield's most durable player. I think he's their most durable player. So nice having him with Mostert. You have Tank Dell in the flex now. You could fire in Christian Kirk. I don't think anybody else here is worthy of consideration. I think it's either Dell or Christian Kirk. Like, I like Jameson Williams, but I want to believe in him, but we need to see it first. And then in full PPR, I don't like that. I don't like that backfield or those running backs as much for this week. Let's see how the Chargers situation plays out. And Jalen Wright is a stash and hold more than anything else. It's between Tank Dell and Christian Kirk. Houston gets Indy. They're on the road. Jacksonville gets Miami. And Jacksonville's on the road. I believe that game is in Miami. I think, Jason, because you have an interesting situation for this particular week because you have a bunch of Dolphins. You have Tua, you have Mostert, and you have Waddle. Christian Kirk, you can almost kind of look at as like this is like a favorable matchup correlation that you might want to lean into. If you expect Tua and Mostert and Waddle and the Dolphins offense in general, well, you're hoping and rooting for it. That's for damn sure with this lineup. If you think that team is going to score points, then through the nature of the beast, Jacksonville is going to have to try to keep up and keep pace and play catch up with the Miami Dolphins offense. That is Christian Kirk. There's a favorable lineup correlation for you here, specifically for week one. I think I like Tank Dell a lot, and he was a big play waiting to happen last year before he got hurt. But I think given this specific situation in full PPR, as long as Christian Kirk isn't, last I saw he was questionable. Oh no, he's not on the week one injury report. So that questionable tag is from the offseason, is from the preseason. So it doesn't matter. I would go Christian Kirk. And I'll write it out as well because the time to reply has expired. Well, that's rude. Why would you take my opportunity to reply away so quickly? That's weird. But anyway, Jason, I would actually consider playing Kirk over Tank in the flex because you have a bunch of Dolphins, and therefore Kirk is like a matchup correlation play for you here where you expect the Dolphins to score points and then you're almost rooting for Jacksonville to score points as well to keep pace, to keep the pressure on Miami to keep doing their thing. I think I would play Kirk here over Tank, especially in full PPR. He should log a lot of volume. Remember, first game, no Calvin Ridley. First game, no Zay Jones for Jacksonville. They're breaking in Gabe Davis and Brian Thomas. Christian Kirk is a mainstay from last year, a holdover from last year. I would play Christian Kirk and bank on like some of that kickback production, so to speak, that he could theoretically get playing the Miami Dolphins, and you have 3 of them in your starting lineup. I would play the correlation game, the matchup correlation game there, and start Christian Kirk. That is what I would do. So best of luck. Appreciate the super. Very kind of you. Supers, again, will jump the line. I will go out of order to address them if you are feeling generous enough to send a super. Thank you so much. Again, appreciate it. Those questions will get priority, as will questions from any members who I don't see in here at the moment. But if they do pop in, they will get their questions answered out of order as well. All right. You'd be picking up either Jordan Mason or Curtis Samuel off of waivers, and you have Allen. So I understand I understand the idea and the thought process with Curtis Samuel, but for the purpose of just depth, bench depth, and redraft, Blake Corum is more valuable to me than somebody like Curtis Samuel, even with Josh Allen as your quarterback. You would give up Etienne and Corum and get Taylor and pair him with Gibbs. That is a swing for the fences. I would almost rather trade a wide receiver 4 in that deal, a wide receiver 3 or 4 in that deal. Maybe not a 3, but a wide receiver 4 in that deal instead of Corum as the pot sweetener. But if you can't get that done, it is a lot of running back depth to give up, but I do think I'm okay with the swing for the fences with that move. So maybe Jordan Mason would be the guy that I pick up just to get some running back depth if you do, in fact, go through with that trade, which I don't hate because Taylor is the best player in that trade. Etienne's not far off, but Taylor is the better player. Let's see. This is the dynasty question. You have DK, Amon-Ra, Nico Collins, Olave. Okay. So you're pretty loaded, but you are currently dealing with the Jamar Chase situation. I think I would hold Worthy if I were you. Your wide receiver group is very strong. It's very strong. But Jamar Chase is volatile right now, and you clearly, like, this has to be a contender. This dynasty team has to be a contender. There's no way it's not. I think I hold on to Worthy unless you can look out into, look at the teams where you would be receiving those first-round picks from and tell me, if you can tell me, oh, yeah, they're both going to be top 5 picks, then okay, fine. Maybe take the deal. But you have a competitive team now, and Worthy helps your wide receiver depth and maximizes your flexibility for this year. The goal is ultimately to win a championship, right? Over stockpiling assets. If you're in a situation to do that, and with this receiver crew and that group of wide receivers, you're set to do something like that. If you want to trade Worthy for an interesting young running back and a first-round pick, then that's a little bit more of that I could get on board with. But 2 first-round picks with this team intending to compete, I'm not as bullish as on getting rid of Worthy just yet. I get the idea you could be selling high on him, but what if this is just him scratching the surface after last night? There's that factor as well. My outlook, a prediction for the Jets. I don't know. They're in a tough They're in a tough division. They're in a tough division with Buffalo and Miami. how does Rodgers bounce back from the injury? Um, is the offensive line gonna, is it any improved at all? Um, the defense should be pretty good, but how much are they going to miss Hassan Reddick not being there yet? I don't. Have they? Has anything come down on that front in the past couple of hours? Not from what I've seen. So, like, how much do they potentially miss him? Yeah, I don't. I mean, the path is there for 10, 11 wins, but their margin for error is kind of thin in that division with Buffalo and Miami. You could argue the Bills are going to take a step back because they lost Stephon Diggs and they lost Gabe Davis. But I mean, they lost some pieces on defense. But Josh Allen is still there, still one of the better quarterbacks in the league. I mean, I think you have to continue to respect what they bring to the table. And then Miami had a top 2 offense last year, and they return all those guys. They could get, I guess they could get 10 wins. A lot hinges on Aaron Rodgers' return to play. I do think as long as Rodgers stays upright, that Breece Hall has, he has RB1 overall upside. He's one of the. There's only a couple of players that could dethrone Christian McCaffrey as the season's RB1, but Breece Hall is on that short list. Xavier Leggett. Opportunity is there, right? The Panthers wide receiver room is wide open. They traded for Deontay Johnson. He'll be the wide receiver 1. Adam Thielen's a savvy vet. He'll continue to be the wide receiver 2. I guess it's possible that the rookie is the team's wide receiver 3. That's certainly possible. How big of a step forward does Bryce Young take this year? It can't get much worse than what it was last year. They were historically bad, so there's nowhere to go but up. The vibes seem to be decent. And you expect Dave Canales to bring in just like a better offensive situation and scheme than what they had last year. So he's on the stash and hope, but we have to wait and see with an offense like the Panthers. They could put a good performance forward tomorrow against the Saints, who I don't know how good they're going to be. I don't know how good the Saints are going to be. He's an interesting hold, or he's an interesting target or guy to keep on your radar, but I'm not going out of my way to pick him up ahead of week 1. I mean, the rookies that are not widely rostered. Yeah, I mean, the thing with the rookies that are not heavily rostered is they're very much like what is the situation? What is their specific situation? Is there like a second-year player? Is there a second-year player that is poised like with a year of experience under their belt to just like be a little bit better than the rookie this year? So like Troy Franklin, I don't know. Roman Wilson, he's not going to play this week. Is he able to crack the lineup? In theory, the opportunity is there. It's George Pickens and a bunch of like kind of boring vets that aren't that haven't done a whole heck of a lot. We'll see. Like, is Troy Franklin able to get, can he beat out Josh Reynolds, who is a decent veteran? Can he beat out Marvin Mims, who didn't do a ton last year, but he flashed a little bit of playmaking, so maybe he's a little bit better year 2. Mitchell for the Colts he's probably he's probably rostered, at least for now, until Josh Downs comes back. Yeah, I'm not looking for rookies rostered under 30% to take a flyer on. I'm looking for like second year players to take a flyer on. I'm looking for second year wide receivers to take a flyer on. The guys who have a year of experience under their belt. Like a Marvin Mims, who I just mentioned. I'll take a flyer on him. Big play possibility. Move a wide receiver to get a better running back. Yeah, okay. So you could, I mean, yes, you could take, what was it? You could take one of Rashad White or David Montgomery or Jacobs. You could try to take Rashad White and flip him for an upgrade at wide receiver. If there's an RB needy team, I do like Rashad White, but if you're worried about his efficiency metrics weren't great last year, so if you're worried about him, maybe before this, before kickoff tomorrow, you could, or I don't know how far along in trade talks you are. Yes, you could. Oh, you wouldn't want to trade him. You're trying to acquire running back talent, not trade it away. My mistake. Yeah, I mean, Worthy's going to have to net a pretty good running back, especially after his performance last or Thursday night. I mean, yeah, I don't know. You can have a high asking price for Xavier Worthy. You could offer him for, I don't even know. You don't want like an older guy like a James Conner. I don't know. I would offer, maybe you could offer Worthy and maybe a pick of your own for somebody like a Kenneth Walker. Depends how high you're willing to climb as far as additional assets. Hmm. I don't think I skipped any questions. Just like jumping down, I see everybody's question. I will get to everybody. If I skipped your question, I apologize, but I don't see any. I don't see it. I don't see it in the chat. So you know, apologies if I missed it, but I don't see one in here. So just let me know. I will get to. I promise I will get to everybody. I will get to everybody's thoughts. I don't know if I don't. I mean, Ertz could be a super sleeper as like a vet for Washington. Maybe this week, but I don't know how. I don't know how much confidence I have in that on a consistent basis. I don't know about that. This week though, first game, savvy vet helping the rookie out. Yeah, could be a possibility. And yeah, Mitchell, yes, like Mitchell for the Colts could be an interesting rookie to stash, but it's possible he's already rostered. It's possible he's already rostered because he may get an expanded opportunity tomorrow with Josh Downs out. But again, I'm a little bit more interested in I'm looking for second year wide receivers who are flying under the radar, who have that year of experience under their belt. Some rookies are going to pop, but not all of them. Like the guys who are not really rostered right now are the guys in like very fluid and less than ideal situations. Roman Wilson, I don't know how good the Steelers offense is going to be. Troy Franklin, I don't know how good the Broncos offense is going to be. So in those scenarios, like, is there a second year player instead that at least has a year of experience under their belt? That's all. Let's see. Start Diggs, Pittman, or Godwin in half PPR. Man, Diggs makes me a little nervous as far as just like I know how good he is, but like what is his role in this new Texans offense where Nico Collins and Tank Dell both emerged last year? Like what does that look like? Pittman is at least I know Pittman is the Colts wide receiver one and should receive even a few more opportunities with Josh Downs out. I think that's my answer. Pittman is my answer. I'll take the guy who I know is his team's wide receiver one, and the Colts are down Josh Downs. I'll take Pittman over Diggs, and I'll take Pittman over Godwin. Yeah, so kind of that transitions to the next question about Nico Collins and Tank Dell. I mean, all of these guys, at least one of these guys is probably not going to be a strong ROI. They've all got high ADPs, and there's only one football. Nico and Tank were both really good last year. Now you add Stephon Diggs to that mix, and they all have high ADPs. Somebody is not gonna have a good ROI. Tank Dell was that team's wide receiver one on a per game basis last year. That being said, Nico Collins did explode in games without Tank Dell. Dell is back. How likely is it that he stays upright for 17 weeks? You can ask that question about literally anybody. It's a difficult, fluid situation to predict until we see it with Diggs now in the mix. One of them will not return value. I guess if I had to guess, it could be Diggs as the newcomer. I think Nico did enough to be a wide receiver one some weeks. I think Tank Dell will be that team's wide receiver one some weeks. There could be some inconsistencies. The Texans have to hit their ceiling as an offense for them to all work out at cost because they're all expensive. That's a tough thing to bank on. That's a tough thing to bank on and to have it all work out for everybody the way that you are hoping or want it to. Do I have Kittle and Njoku ranked over likely for the rest of the season? At this point, I would cautiously put likely over Njoku, but I'm not putting him over Kittle yet. Mark Andrews didn't have a great game. Mark Andrews also had a bit of a tumultuous offseason. He was just in a car accident a couple of weeks ago. So I don't want to overreact and panic yet on Mark Andrews. That being said, likely is talented as hell, and they need to keep him in this offense as a mainstay, as a regular contributor. So likely is going to continue to eat into that role. I'm curious to see how David Njoku does sans Joe Flacco, going back to Deshaun Watson, whom he wasn't great with, whom he struggled with last year. Njoku went nuclear with Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco is gone. Deshaun Watson is back. So that's a very fluid situation. Njoku is talented as hell and very good, but he's been inconsistent. Likely looks like he's emerging. So I don't think it's far-fetched to put him over Njoku from a pure upside perspective rest of season. Not Kittle, though. Not Kittle. Warren or Spears in full PPR. I will take Spears. I will take Spears. There's no, Jaylen Warren picked up a hamstring injury, and I don't know how serious it is. It might be nothing, but I don't know how much Jaylen Warren is gonna factor in tomorrow. He's off the injury report, which is great, and he might have his regular role, but he hasn't seen a lot of action recently as far as practice and all that stuff because he's been nursing this injury. I would take Spears, who I think is the better player between the Titans running backs. Regardless, I'll take Spears in full PPR. Yeah. He doesn't have an injury designation, or he didn't have. There's no random lingering concerns with Tajay Spears as far as an injury dating back to the preseason, like there is or was with Warren. So I'll take Spears. You're gonna take and again, Ocho. I don't. If you're still in here, you might have unsubscribed. Sorry, I don't see your question. I genuinely don't see your question. If I missed it, let me know. Or if anybody else sees it, let me know. I don't see your question. But you know, best of luck if I missed it and you're no longer in here. I don't think I missed it. I'm intending to get to everybody, but I appreciate everybody's patience as well. Thanks for coming in and hanging out. Taking a flyer on Quentin Johnston. I mean, as a starter tomorrow? Is this like a 16-team league? You can take a flyer on him to put him on your bench. That's fine. I'm just making sure. Not as a starter. You could take a shot on him, but like, who are you? But then again, who are you dropping? Who are you dropping? So that would be the that would be the one question I have. Who are you dropping to pick him up? Like, sure, you can take that chance. There's another guy who asked me about rookie wide receivers under 30% rostered. I mean, oh yeah, it was, yeah. Take a guy on like him, like a Jonathan Mingo. Speaking of the Panthers, Jonathan Mingo. I don't know if Mingo is going to be any good. This rookie wide receiver class is pretty solid, but with some of these other guys, you never know like how much seasoning they actually need before. Okay, these guys are legitimate, viable stashes on my fantasy team in 10-team leagues, 12-team leagues. Like for right now, it's like, what about the second-year players who have that year of NFL seasoning now? So Quentin Johnston, yeah, he fits that bill. He fits the mold. I mean, he wasn't good last year. Former first-round pick, already looking dicey. But I mean, is he better with a year under his belt? Now that he's got some experience, is he a little bit better? Could you take a chance on him? Sure. But what are you dropping? That would be the other question. Who are you dropping to add him? That's another question. Lamar and Tua are your quarterback. So another question. Who's your QB3? I mean, yeah, maybe look to get a QB3, a viable QB3 for one of your wide receivers. Yeah. Like beef up a QB3, or yes, like an RB3 or 4 with one of your young wideouts. I guess I would include like a Zay Flowers in that as well. But you might be high on Zay Flowers, which is fair. But at this point, you should be high on Xavier Worthy too. Dang, he looked really good. Palmer, JMO, or is that Trenton Irwin you're talking about? It could be Trenton Irwin. It could be friggin' Andre Yosivach tomorrow. Who the hell knows for Cincinnati in full PPR? So Chark is out. I don't know how much that matters. He might have been projected to be a starter. It's Palmer and Ladd McConkey as the Chargers starting receivers. And then Jameson Williams is obviously like a huge dart throw. I would say Palmer. Between Palmer, JMO, and yeah, like say like a Trenton Irwin, who knows what we're getting. Like, he could he get 5 catches for 50 yards and a touchdown? Yeah, I guess so. But I'll take Palmer, who has been a projected starter for the Chargers all this time. I'll take Palmer over JMO, who's a huge, a huge dart throw, and maybe an even bigger dart throw is any Bengals wide receiver. I'll take Palmer in full PPR. He's a regular starter for the Chargers who could be the team's wide receiver one, and DJ Chark is out. Yeah, I'll take Palmer. Okay. Nobody saw a question that I missed. All right. I get to everybody. If somebody, I don't know, something always goes down, whatever. If somebody missed something or if I missed something, then apologies. But, if nobody else is seeing the question that that I potentially missed, then, then I don't want this, I don't want this false vibe about me missing questions to be just out there. That's no fair. Okay, you got offered Amon-Ra and Rashee Rice for Brees and Diggs. Who are your other? What's the rest of your lineup look like? What's the rest of your roster look like? Are you weak at receiver? Are you strong at running back? I don't really want to give up Brees Hall, to be honest. Rashee Rice had a really nice week one. Amon-Ra is obviously a stud, but Brees Hall is a top 2 or 3 running back. I don't really want to trade Brees unless you are loaded at running back. You also ended up with I don't know. You also ended up with Jonathan Taylor. You also ended up with, Rachaad White and Joe Mixon and good run, and you have good running back depth. You got Achane. If your class is really strong, Puka, DK, yeah. I mean, and then my last question would be, how many receivers do you start? Do you start 2 wide receivers or do you start 3 wide receivers? If you start 3 wide receivers, there's a little bit more of an argument to make the trade. So you do start 3 wide receivers. So your new starters would be Amon-Ra, Rashee Rice, and Puka, and then maybe DK in the flex, and then David Montgomery, and Achane as your backs, as opposed to Brees, Achane, Montgomery, Puka, DK, Diggs. Dang. Could you do Nah, you're not going to be able to get. I wouldn't want to do Achane for. They're not going to do Achane for Amon-Ra 1-for-1, and I wouldn't want to do Achane for Rashee Rice 1-for-1. I would want to keep Achane. It's enticing. It's definitely enticing since you start 3 receivers. I just have a hard time trading Brees Hall. I just have a hard time trading Brees Hall. Amon-Ra should be a top 5 wide receiver. Rashee Rice looks like he could be a top 15 receiver, maybe even better. But Brees should be the RB2, if not the RB3, and he might just be the RB1 overall. He might. That ceiling exists for Brees. And then Diggs, I haven't talked much about Diggs. I mean, he's no slouch. It's fair. And if you really want the wide receivers, I don't blame you. I'm not more in on this because I have a hard time trading Brees. That's all. And I do realize what was my take on Rachaad White? I don't like Rachaad White, as I'll quickly just bounce back up to take care of that. I like Rachaad White. I have liked Rachaad White. He's a great pass catcher, one of the better pass catchers at running back in the league. His efficiency numbers are not great, so there's going to be a lot of pressure on him to perform at a higher level this year on a per play basis because Bucky Irving looks like he's like a viable, competent change of pace guy then the Bucks can turn to and probably will if Rachaad White continues to only get 3.5 yards a carry or under 4 yards a carry. So the efficiency metrics need to come up. They need to be better. I like Rachaad White. I do because he's a good pass catcher. And so therefore he retains a role no matter what. It's going to be a little bit more challenging for him this year, though, to provide a good ROI. So I did miss that up above. So apologies. Let's see. Yeah. So again, the Amon-Ra for Rashee Rice is kind of personal preference. If you really want a stacked, loaded wide receiver core, which is definitely fair, and you're getting a stud wide receiver in Amon-Ra. I like Rashee Rice more than Diggs, but like Breece is the top player here. Ultimately, I think if it were me, it's a very fair trade, but I have a hard time giving up Breece. I just do. I have a hard time giving up Breece. What's the Nectar? The Nectar is the dive bar that I go to for NFL Sundays, actually. That's actually, I think, the first time anybody's asked me about this hat. That is my bar that I like to go to during the season. It's a Raiders bar, actually. I'm not a Raiders fan, but it is a Raiders bar. It gets really fun. So I'll be there tomorrow. And for showing up every Sunday, I got this hat from them. It was very nice. It was a nice little complimentary gift. And I like it a lot. So I have absolutely no swag, but it gives me maybe a small amount of swag. So there you go. Yeah, it's a fun spot. Yes, it's a good rookie class. It is a good wide receiver class. We're expecting a lot of big things from this rookie class top to bottom. But depending on situation, circumstances, level of confidence and competence in the quarterback, in the offense that they landed in, is going to take some time for some of these guys. That's all. So like in certain situations it's like, who's the second-year player who at the very least has some seasoning under his belt that is flying under the radar because they didn't have a good rookie season when maybe we were expecting them to have a better rookie season. So somebody like a Marvin Mims comes to mind for me there. But Troy Franklin is very interesting long-term. There's no doubt. Mark Andrews and Rashee Rice or Terry McLaurin and Dalton Kincaid? McLaurin and Kincaid. I mean, Kincaid should lead the Bills in receptions. Mark Andrews is going to split work with Isaiah Likely this season, I would think. And then Rice, you can argue over Terry McLaurin, but Terry McLaurin is a very intriguing play this year as like a guy who should command a 25 to 30% target share from what should be the best quarterback he's ever played with, which is crazy to say. But Jaden Daniels is probably going to be the best quarterback of Terry McLaurin's career thus far. That's how bad it has been for Terry McLaurin. So you can argue Rice over Terry. That's fine. But I think Kincaid over Andrews is kind of sizable at this point. So I'll take Terry and Dalton Kincaid. I'll take Terry and Dalton Kincaid. And thank you again for everybody for confirming that we didn't see Ocho's question. I don't know what that issue was all about, but he does not appear to be here anymore. I would have answered the question. I just didn't see one. So yeah, I'll take Terry and Kincaid. I'll take Terry and Kincaid. Rice might be the best player in that trade, but also Andrews might be the least reliable. So I don't like that. Okay, we're moving down to the last couple questions here that at least I have in the chat so far. You have Watson. Deshaun Watson? Is this like a dynasty question? You're trying to unload him, or is this redraft? Like, what can you? You probably can't get if it's redraft, especially like one quarterback. You're not going to get anything back for him because we just his value is nothing right now. It's so low. Nobody's going to want to take that chance. They're going to want to see it first from a guy who wasn't good last year. What's the context of this situation? Is it dynasty? If Christian Watson. Nah, just hang on to him. Just hold him. Because people are going to buy low on the Packers. They're going to try to buy low on you on the Packers receivers right now, as long as Jordan Love is out. You want top dollar. You want opportunities for top dollar, not bottom dollar. You're holding Christian Watson. You're doing nothing with him except leaving him on your bench, waiting for Jordan Love to come back and hopefully get his value back up. I would keep it. I like Watson regardless. He's not usable for the next couple of weeks. I assume you're not going to get a great return. It depends on what the return is. If somebody's willing to shell out an RB2 right now, that's one thing. But I assume they're not going to want to do that for a guy who just lost his quarterback for at least a few weeks. Yeah. I would hold Christian Watson. I would not move off of him. And we are coming to the bottom of this chat. I will be live again tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern, for anybody who has some last-minute thoughts or questions that they want to run by me before the slate, as I kind of wrap this down here. Again, appreciate everybody coming in and hanging out tonight. I apologize for the technical difficulties. The intention for this season to kind of declutter the stream was to make this like a members only chat. I goofed and messed that up. That's on me. You guys deserve better than technical difficulties on my end. So these streams will be free to the general public, like this one has been. So happy to continue helping out tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern. If you need any last minute thoughts to run by me before the slate kicks off. My drink of choice at the Nectar. I love this question. Start off with a Bloody Mary because I'm on the West Coast, so football starts at 10 a.m. here. Love that, by the way. Start off with a Bloody Mary. And then probably tomorrow, since it's the first game of the season, sometime around the first quarter, the end of the first quarter for the morning slate or the early slate, there might be a little bit of either whiskey or tequila in there as like a little salute and cheers to the season. And then from there, it's Modelo's for the rest of the day. And water responsibly. You drink responsibly. Encourage everybody to do that. Have fun, but do so in a responsible way. That keeps it fun. So, you always mix the water in, but after the Bloody Mary, and then maybe a shot of tequila, a shot of whiskey. Depends on what we're feeling. Depends on what the vibe is, and then we transition to the Modelo's for the rest of the afternoon and into the early evening. It's a good time. It's a fun time. It's a fun little bar in Van Nuys. Enjoy it a lot. So it's going to be good to get back into that ritual with football back tomorrow. Yeah. Whatever. Yeah. However you're planning to enjoy or imbibe whatever you're doing, enjoy, have a great time, have a lot of fun. Enjoy the fact that football is back, that NFL is back, that fantasy is back. It's going to be a good week. It's going to be a good day tomorrow. It's going to be a good season. I feel confident about all of our chances. As I wind down this evening, again, one more time, I will be live again tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern, if you want to run any last-minute thoughts by me. Start Pickens or James Conner in full PPR. I'm inclined to say pick the receiver in full PPR. It's not a great matchup having to go against A.J. Terrell on the road, catching passes from Justin Fields. Connor is probably in a slightly better situation on the road against Buffalo. I think because, not that Russell Wilson is a stellar quarterback at this point in his career, but if Russell Wilson was playing, I would feel a little bit better about George Pickens. Because it's Justin Fields, Pickens could go off, but there could be a lot of inconsistencies because how accurate, how efficient is Justin Fields going to be throwing the ball? That's a question that he still needs to answer dating back to his time in Chicago. I think your floor play is James Conner. Your swing for the fences, if you think you need upside depending on your matchup, is Pickens. But your safe play is James Conner. If you think you can play it safe, I would play James Conner. If you think you need to go upside, I would go Pickens. But Pickens might be a little bit more all or nothing catching passes from Justin Fields. So it just depends on what you need. I think I'm at the end of the chat. I think I got everybody. Appreciate y'all's patience as I get through these questions. If there's anything that I missed in the over the next minute or so, let me know. I think I got to everybody. Again, appreciate you guys being patient as I work through my tech difficulties, and apologies again that happened. I tested everything before I went live, and of course, naturally it stops working like 30 minutes into the stream. But got it up and running again. Again, I will be live again tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern. For any last-minute thoughts you want to run by me or questions, I will be here for a little while leading up to kickoff if you guys need anything then. But that will do it for me this evening. Appreciate you guys coming in, hanging out, talking shop. Hopefully what I'm able to provide is helpful. Hopefully it works out for you guys. Absolutely keep me informed going into next week how your performances went, and we'll keep it moving after Sunday, of course, with my first waiver wire show on Tuesday as well. Jerome Ford, Mixon, or Mostert? In half PPR scoring, I'm inclined to say Mixon. If it's, I guess even in standard scoring, yeah. I guess I would say Mixon there as well. I like Jerome Ford. I like Jerome Ford, but he's not as proven as Mixon. And I like Raheem Mostert, but he's closer to a committee. He's in a committee, whereas Mixon is more likely to be a bell cow, is more likely to get most of the work and opportunities. I would play Mixon. I would play Mixon as the guy who is the most proven guy that figures to get the most opportunities of those three names. Jerome Ford might match him in opportunities, but Mixon is more proven. Mostert is proven, but may not get as many opportunities because he's in a timeshare with Achane. So I'll take Mixon. Of those names. All right. I think that does it. Yeah, Mixon over Ford, Mixon over Mostert. That's where I'm going. Appreciate you guys again. Thank you so much for the time. Again, 11 a.m. Eastern tomorrow if you guys need anything else. If not, best of luck week 1. Good luck in your matchups. Good luck in your situations. Hope everything goes your way this weekend as we say hello and a good return to the NFL and to football in general. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.